So finally, here we are. This is the day 2 of the end of the year series 2021. Hello, hey guys, I am Jyotsna, and if you're new here, hi. This is a booktube channel. I talk a lot about books here. So if books is something that you're looking out for, you're looking for recommendations, consider subscribing and things like that. But otherwise, to recap, if you're not new here or if you not know what's going on here, anyway, if you're new here, you get my gist. Anyway, the point is that today is the second day of the end of the year video series where I'm going to be talking about my top fictional reads of 2021. Okay, so we're just going to jump right into it, and I want to tell you a few things that happened different this year as compared to the last year. So last year it was like a top 10 list, and I think in my previous video also I must have mentioned it's a top 10 list, but unfortunately I couldn't do a top 10. Yeah, I know, I couldn't do a top 10 at all, and be it with fiction or non-fiction, because non-fiction is coming up tomorrow. So today we're doing solely fiction. Let me just tell you, this is not a top 10 list. Instead, I'm going to be putting this into like two categories, one being the top dog category and one being the underdog category. Okay, so basically books that I knew would like really influence me, impress me a lot are top dogs, and books I didn't think that would make an immense impact on me are put under underdogs. But that being said, these books are like, they've been very carefully selected. I have done whatever this lady did in the math meme, because I was like, yeah, like, should this book be the top dog, should this book be the underdog, or should this book be even there in the list? I have done all that, and that's why I have come to you with this piece of paper. Okay, I actually worked everything out on paper, like also there's a lot of glare on my glasses. Okay, I'm going to remove it. But the point is that we did a lot of mehnat. Okay, we did a lot of hard work right now, and that's why here I am telling you all my top dog and underdog fictional reads. Now again, let me reiterate, this is not a ranking list. Okay, if I was supposed to rank these books, it would be the toughest choice for me in the world. I tried to do that, but it couldn't happen, and that's why I ended up making a top dog underdog list. I would like you to give equal preference to all the books mentioned here in this particular list, and the sequence does not really matter, because the sequence is actually the sequence in which I read the books throughout the year. So the sequence doesn't make any sense. The thing is, be it top dog or be it underdog, depending on your mood, you can select whichever books you want and read whichever books you want, because I'm also going to be putting like a 1 or 2 line gist after every book that I mention, and kind of giving you like a one liner on why you should read it. So the first part would be the top dog books. Okay, books that I knew that would impress me already. I had heard a lot about it, and I was just like, yes, I know these books will impress me, and it ended up impressing me. Like, it didn't end up disappointing me. Okay, so to start it off, ignore the glare. Spectacles, I'm blind. Paper, oops, my paper just fell down. Okay, we dropped this, but we are back now. So back into action. So the first book in the top dog list is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. It is an eternal classic. It is an LGBTQ book that talks about our protagonist and a person named Giovanni. It is a literary treat for anybody who's looking forward to read literary fiction or modern literary fiction. This is chef's kiss. Okay, the next book is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I was like, by Matt Haig. And honestly, if you are going through a quarter life crisis or a midlife crisis right now, or if you have a lot of regrets in life, this is the book you have to read. Because when I read this, it just like I just like turned over in my life, like literally, because I was going through a quarter life crisis when I was actually reading this book. Or maybe I was just like getting out of my quarter life crisis. Anyway, the next book is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was my first Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I had heard a lot about her via the internet, via people. It was pretty much like a no-brainer for me to pick this up. But what really surprised me was the audiobook. The audiobook of Daisy Jones and the Six is amazing. It is something that you should read on audio only, which is actually about the band which is called Daisy Jones and the Six. You need to read it for the beautiful picturization, for the 70s Western music scene, and I absolutely love the emotions that were there in this particular book. The next one in the Topdog list is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. And again, I had heard a lot about it before getting into the book, because this book, when it was released in November 2020, a lot of like buzz was already there around it. So I was curious to know what is the thing around this book? What is happening here? To be honest, I am so glad I read this. I'm very glad that the book actually won the Women's Prize 2021 as well, because Susanna Clarke deserves all the love in the world. I'm not going to tell you much about the book. It's fantasy fiction. It is about Piranesi, who is in this world with waves and with these old antique, architecture, and that's all you need to know, and that's how you literally slide into the book. Okay. The next one is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Again, a Women's Prize winner. This is the 2020 Women's Prize winner. And I was delighted to read this book because I already heard a lot about it. I was really, really looking forward to reading it as well. And the BookTube Prize even gave me a chance to read it because I was judging, the BookTube Prize this year, and this was there in the finals list, the fiction list. So basically, my point being that Hamnet is about characterizing, I would say, kind of. Shakespeare is always romanticized in some form or the other, and people really don't like Shakespeare because you need to learn Shakespeare in academics, and there are very select few who will be like, yay, Shakespeare. But the point is that this book kind of is a historical fictional read. It's actually non-fiction written in a fictional format with dramatization, of course. But the point being this, that it's like getting making the man humane, right? Making Shakespeare and his family more humane, talking about his struggles, talking about a lot of things that happen in the book that you would know if you read the book. And that being said, the next one is again the winner of the Women's Prize. I don't remember which year, and this is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Again, I'd heard a lot about this book. The book didn't disappoint me at all. I was a crying mess at the end of it, and the sheer emotions that Madeline Miller has kind of gotten into this particular book just made me happy and sad at the same time. And that being said, let's go to the next one, and that is A Passage North by Anuk Aditpragasam. Now, honestly, this was an underdog, but because of the Booker list, it became a top dog because people were literally rooting for this book to win. Like, I think there was also an English betting website that had kind of, bet odds or something on this book. You get my point, and this book had the highest votes, and that's how it became a top dog. Let me tell you, Anuk Aditpragasam's writing is chef's kiss. Like, this is the literary fiction that you want to read. If you are a fan of literary fiction, if you're a fan of what do you call it, stream of consciousness in general, this is the book to read. Absolutely gorgeous writing. Should have won the Booker, but it's okay. It was another book that won it. I like that book as well, but it's not there in the list. But that being said, the next one is, of course, our good old golden Vikram Seth, A Suitable Boy. Again, you guys hear a lot about this book. Everyone tells you to read this book. There was a Netflix series also released this year, and I read it after the Netflix series released, and I kind of did not watch the Netflix series eventually. I just watched like one episode and just like poof after reading the book. But this is worth it. Okay, 1500 pages, worth it. Please give your time to this book. If you are planning to read this book in 2022, let me tell you, it's good to be organized. It's good to be like stable with the book. I took some time to finish it, but then I was determined to finish like the rest of the 1000 pages or something over like a 3-day weekend, like over the Ganesh Chaturthi weekend, and that's why I finished it. My point, go for it. It's 100% worth it, and even I think you'll love A Suitable Boy. And that being said, we get to the last book of the Topdog List, and that's Dune by Frank Herbert. Again, there was a movie made this year. Absolutely brilliant book. Like, this is the best book of the entire series, and this is coming from a person who's already read the second book in the Dune series. The second book cannot match to what the first book has done. Now, I'm yet to read the third book, so maybe my opinion will change. But if you are someone who actually wants to get into like sci-fi and fantasy, this is the book that you should read. Now again, like, warning that it will take you like 50 to 100 pages to actually settle into the world of Dune, and get to know Paul Atreides and all the characters. But then once you get in, there is no escaping. Like, you cannot come back once you get in. And this was an absolute delight. Now, the thing is, again, I have not watched the movie here. I've heard that the movie is making people read the book. So now you know what you need to do. Maybe watch the movie and then read the book, or read the book and then watch the movie. But the book is an absolute delight. Like, nothing can, again, beat the first book in the Dune series. Okay, so now let's move on to our underdog list. And the underdog list is pretty much important because I think that these books are not spoken about on booktube, like, or they are like books that many people are yet to discover. So these are like underrated books, but they literally made my year no matter what. And for me, it's like I feel that most of these books were books that had I would say come and gone. Like, there are some books that stay on social media, and there are some books that come and then leave, and these books are now off social media. Basically, like, no one's talking about them anymore, even if they were spoken about before, or they were never spoken about on booktube, no matter what. Okay, and when I say booktube, I mean like, book Twitter, bookstagram, everything. But the point is that these are the underdogs. Okay, again, the series in which the books are placed does not make a difference. I basically, like, it's the order of reading, but yeah, please give equal weightage to all of these, and if you're interested in any of these, please do go ahead and read them. Okay, so the first book in this list is Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Filio. Now, this is not obscure anymore, but it's still obscure. Like, it's an irony because this was being spoken about a lot when, like, I think in the late 20s, early 2021. Like, when I say late 20s, it's like late 2020 and early 2021. A lot of people on the Western Hemisphere, especially in the US and Canada, were reading this book, and I was intrigued because I think this is like some Virginia University Press, and it was like very obscure. The book is like super expensive in India as well, and that's just like that one press publication that actually publishes the book, and it just like sprung up. Like, it was just like all of a sudden, like, people just started loving this book a lot, and it just sprung up. You get my point? And that's why I got really interested in the book. And later on, I think it won the National Book Award as well. And that's why it was in my radar since a very long time that people are talking good things about the book. Now, generally, when it comes to like American books or books from the Western Hemisphere, I'm a bit like skeptical because, you need to have like a Western, I won't say upbringing, but a Western, you need to have an idea of how how the culture is in the West, because I born and brought up in the East. So, you need to have that kind of essence of understanding of that particular culture in some form or the other. But for me, this book transcended all of those lines. Okay, the book is basically about the supposed religious pious ladies, or black women who belong to the church, but then they're kind of involved in some of the other sin, some way or the other, or some way, like something happening around them is something that the society is kind of shunning. Okay, so it's a very, very interesting book. I absolutely love the writing. I absolutely love the set of short stories as well. And if you get a chance to read this book, please do that, because it's a very surreal experience. I would kind of like put this book into the contemporary short stories series, and honestly, it is worth it. Okay, go ahead, read it, considering you get like hands on the book. So that being said, the next book that's really obscure but I absolutely loved is The Last Thing Is Surrender by Leonard Pitts Jr. I picked this up really on a whim because a booktuber friend told me that this was one of his favorite like reads of 2020, and boy, I was not disappointed. Okay, so whenever you talk about World War II books, there are a lot of books that are concentrated in Europe that spring up, but this is one of those books that talks about the American history and the history of segregation and racism during World War II. In the US, of course. Now, of course, again, this is a West centered book, but then having read so many World War II books like The Book Thief, All the Light We Cannot See, all of these books are based in Europe, right? This was a very refreshing change because it's set in the US. The reason I really like this book a lot is simply because of the dynamics the character has. This is a literary historical fiction. It's not like a contemporary or pure historical fiction because it's a very character based plot. Like the way our characters improve and see the world in each part keeps changing because something or the other has happened to them. Now, if I want to like dwell deep to help you understand why you should read this book, I'll be telling you a lot of spoilers, which I don't want to. But my point that I want to put forward is that if you're tired of reading a European perspective or European historical fiction on World War II, it's time that maybe you want to shift to the North American perspective. This is the book that you have to absolutely read. Okay, and that being said, the next book in this Underdog list is Transition Baby by Tori Peters. Yes, I know. I've spoken about this book. I don't think this book is an underdog anymore, but when I read it, it was an underdog, and it actually blew my mind. Okay, I read this when it was longlisted for the Women's Prize, and I was just like, wow, like the first trans woman nominated for the Women's Prize in fiction, and I really like the book. The reason I'm recommending it to you as well is because it's Trans 101. It's a good understanding about how the trans community is, and especially like a lot of questions that we as cis people have get answered through the book. So, and I really like Tori Peters, how she's written the book as well. Absolutely amazing. Again, maybe some of you might find the end a bit underwhelming, and I kind of understand that too because it was a bit underwhelming. But if you want to like know the journey of like being trans and detransitioning and wanting a baby as well, this is the thing that you do. Okay, so that being said, the next underrated book in this list is Luster by Raven Leilani, and this was all over like literary booktube for a very long time, and I was not expecting to like this, but at the end of the book, I just like the light bulb in my head just clicked on. I was like, damn, what did I just read now? Like, there are a few books which you just like finish and you're suddenly like, wow, did I really read that? Like, did this really happen? And this was one of those books for me. Now, let me be very honest. Some of the people who have read this book don't like it. Like, it's like a Marmite book. Like, either you love it or either you hate it. Like, there's no in between when it comes to the book. So, I would say before reading the book on a blind suggestion that I've given or a blind recommendation, please read more about the book, what the book is about, because it's again literary fiction, but I would like to call it millennial literary fiction or Gen Z literary fiction. But I just feel like it's a book that you need to tread carefully with, because if you do not like the subject matter, it will be a very, very bad reading experience for you. And oops, the camera shook, but it's okay. You get my point. Like, read it if you think it's suiting your tastes. Okay, got it. And that being said, the next underdog of this whole list is Hangwoman by K.R. Meera. The number of times I have heard people on BookTube speak about this brilliant author called K.R. Meera is one or two times only. Okay, I don't know why aren't people reading K.R. Meera in their lives. And if they've read K.R. Meera, they should talk about K.R. Meera more on Facebook, on YouTube, sorry, not Facebook, on YouTube, right? On social media. And Hangwoman was an absolute delight. It's a feminist novel. It actually talks about the Gradha Malik family, and they're basically like, as you know, since generations, their job has been to be like a hangman in the gallows. And finally, we come to Chetna, who is like the central character of the entire story, and it's her job now to be the first hanged woman, technically. Okay, so she needs to go to the gallows to hang a convicted criminal, and it's that particular story because never in the history of the country has there been a hanged woman. There have only been hanged men. Okay, absolutely brilliantly written story by K.R. Meera. I think this is like one of those books that when you close, you're like, wow, what did I just read? Now, maybe I'm exaggerating it a bit in my head, but let me tell you, you're not going to regret reading this book at all. And we need to talk about this book on BookTube. Okay, we need to talk about Hang Woman by K.R. Meera on BookTube, especially since this is a translated book from a regional language, and also it's an Indian book. And we don't talk about Indian books on Indian BookTube. Not many of them, at least. But anyway, my thoughts and my rant, my feeling to rant aside. Okay, okay, I'm not going to rant anymore. Anyway, and that being said, we have two more books to go, and the next book is again a translated book, and this is, I think, a bit more talked about on social media, and that's Mother of 1084 by Mahashweta Devi, translated from again a regional language. The K.R. Meera one was translated from Malayalam, and this one is translated from Bengali. Okay, the point is, this book just gave me the chills. Okay, it just like shook me because I did know that people said that, okay, this book is nice, but then not many people have read it to say that, oh, this book is nice. And that's the thing, right? Because you're just like relying on a few people's opinions. And when the last page, like when I read the last line, I was like totally numb. I was like, shit, like, oh, sorry, I swore on camera, but please ignore it. I was like, damn, okay, fine, whatever. I was like literally numb. I was like, damn. What did I just read? And this is one of those books. Again, must read. If you ask me what affected me more out of Mother of 1084 and Hang Woman, because both stories are set in Calcutta, by the way, I would say Mother of 1084 affected me more than, Hang Woman, but I still would like to, give both of them that kind of platform and tell you that you're supposed to read both the books no matter what. Okay, so yeah, that's that. And that being said, I think we are down to like two more books actually. The other book is The Fortune Men by Nadifa Muhammad. And the reason I added this book into this is because after the Booker, this book has not been spoken about. And the reason why I added it here is simply because it affected me so much. Okay, The Fortune Men is actually biographical fiction, I think. So basically, it's the story. It's a non-fiction story, a real-life story written in a fictional format, and I absolutely love books like these. And this is about Muhammad Matan, who was actually arrested in Cardiff, Wales in the 1950s. And don't Google this because you'll get spoilers for the book. But this is, he was wrongfully arrested for a crime which he did not do. Okay, and his story just, really pained my heart. It was really, I would say, a roller coaster ride with the book, right? And I highly recommend that you read it if you've not read it yet, because like I said, after the book fizzled out, after the book season, nobody ever spoke about this book, or I don't think anybody's even kept this in their radar. But I'm requesting you that you keep this in your radar. And that being said, my last underdog book of this list is actually Jasmine Days by Benjamin. And let me just tell you that although this book won the JCB prize a couple of years back, and I do believe that it's getting a lot of traction, I still feel that the book is super duper underrated. Okay, the book talks about struggles that South Asian immigrants have to endure. What is follow? Have to endure in the Middle East, and this is kind of set in an unnamed city in the Middle East. So again, this is translated from Malayalam, but what I recommend is that you get Jasmine Days and Al Arab Novel Factory, both of them at the same time, because I just feel, because it's actually a part of the series, it's the same timeline. But what I absolutely liked about Jasmine Days is because of the message that it gave you in a very, very simple format. Like there is a social message that's embedded in the book that's very important to like today's India specifically, because the book talks about revolution and protests and riots. Okay, so the reason why I added this in the underrated and the underdog list is because we've forgotten a lot of aspects that this book has provided in the form of social message, in the form of like its own contemporary writing. And I do think that we need to kind of understand and revive something back from the book, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's a very nice book. So yes, I think that's it. That is it for my top fiction list. I know it was pretty much different from what I did last year, but I felt that this was the correct way to do. I don't know how will I do it next year, but then this year I just felt like I couldn't like fit so many beautiful, wonderful books that I read into like top 10 or like a ranking box. Okay, so yeah. That being said, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for following the series as well. I am very, very grateful for you, and thank you. So I will see you on my video tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye.